Hello and welcome to another one of my videos where we look into the background of disgraced Chief Constable Nick Adderley. In today's video, I want to break down the different types of lies that Nick Adderley has said and why we cannot trust anything that he does say because of the different types of lies he has told, and overall what these say about him as a person. Now, you might think that if someone's lied, it's pretty cut and dry. They've lied, they're dishonest. But there really are different types of lies. And what I want to do in this video is break down those different types of lies. And in order to do that, we need to ask the first question is, why do people lie? Now, motivations for lying are diverse. Not all lies are the same in either their intention or their impact. I've tried to rank them, and broadly speaking, going from the mildest kind of lies increasing in severity to the more serious kind of lies, a kind of league table of lies, if you will. The first kind of lies that I'd like to look at are what we could call white lies. And the meaning behind those and the intention, it's often benevolent. They're designed to facilitate social interaction so that you can be perceived as being polite. Some lies might be harmless, or some might even be helpful, when in comparison to being honest, you can be seen as being brutal, and it's not something the other person would want to hear. Examples of this could be you're telling a friend or a work colleague that their new item of clothing or their hairstyle that you don't care much for, that you think it looks nice. And the impact of that can be it makes the other person feel good, it avoids an argument, or avoids hurting their feelings. Now, this is generally done to avoid any kind of negative repercussions, and I think to some degree we'd all admit we do this in our day-to-day lives to avoid getting into arguments and disagreements with other people, and generally just for an easier life. The next type of lies we need to look at are what I am calling lies by omission. Now, this is where someone is honest in their overall answer, but they leave out crucial details, and usually this is to mislead the other person. A relevant example of this would be when Nick Adderley was asked by his wife why he didn't reply to any of her texts for an entire day. He might simply reply with how he was busy with a work colleague all day at a conference event. Now, that could be entirely true, but the omission could be that he was with a female colleague who he's having an affair with, and they spent the entire day in the hotel room. Likewise, if and when he starts up a relationship with his latest partner, he might say he's recently single, which again is true, but he has omitted to say how he was married and his wife kicked him out for adultery last night. These are the kind of lies by omission that he is notorious for. Now, the relevant examples of Nick Adderley doing this would be in September 2023, when the medal story first hit the tabloids. His response of saying, "I have been made aware of a complaint in general terms, but have not had any notices served on me by the IOPC. It is disappointing someone has leaked such details about what I deem to be a very personal family issue." Now again, that's not a lie. Yes, it is a very deep personal family issue, but he's doubling down and giving an answer that deflects away. He then goes on to say, "I am very proud of my cadet, Royal Navy and police service. Coming from a military family, I wear all my medals with pride, and I've always worn the 2 medals my brothers gave me to wear when one became critically ill and one emigrated, alongside my own." Crucially, what is missing from that statement is, yes, it's a personal family issue, but it's because the medal that belonged to his brother was not awarded to his brother. It's a Falklands Combat Medal that you get when you served in the exclusion zone during the conflict, which his brother didn't. His brother was on a merchant navy ship called the Cedarbank, and that did not see any conflict. Therefore, the medal that he is wearing, that he claims was his brother's, he knows is also false. This is then compounded by the fact Adderley knows his brother still has the medal. So these lies by omission of just giving part of the story to infer many, many things, these are not great traits for a person, because what he is trying to do is convince someone of a story without actually lying, and it shows a level of deception and intent to deceive the public. Now, these type of lies by omission are also generally to facilitate social interactions, in order to avoid confrontation, maintain a cordial relationship. But the key difference being between this and a white lie is how this kind of lie benefits the person telling it, where the person being lied to would often be quite keen to know the full facts. The impact of these type of lies is often with the person being lied to left to question their reality, memory, or perception of events. I know for sure when this story first broke in the newspapers, I think we would have all appreciated knowing exactly what was going on so that Nick Adderley could be sacked there and then, rather than being misled, having him on suspension for months, costing well in excess of £100,000 for his salary. The third type of lie is the one about exaggeration and bluster, and this is the one that's most common with Nick Adderley, I think you'll all agree. The type of people that do this, they're usually the kind of people you find propping up the bar on your local, boasting about their accomplishments for attention. Generally speaking, these lies are often harmless, as they relate to the person telling the lie and no one else, and if anything, form a large part of what experienced salespeople will do to make the story or the thing they are trying to sell to you seem more interesting. The reason why people do this and lie about their own accomplishments, it's often to big themselves up, and that's to mask their own insecurities, and it's this need for validation and acceptance. And again, this all comes down to facilitate social interactions where their own abilities or achievements are not interesting enough to capture people's attention, so they need to invent situations that have happened to them. Now, I did say they can usually be harmless, but they do have some crossover with narcissists. These kind of people only see the world through their eyes, as though the entire world and the life they're living, it's a TV show all about them, and other people that appear are just guest stars. Therefore, any response is based on what will benefit them and them alone. Therefore, what they see as a simple lie to inflate their own achievements, it's actually very difficult for them to see that can be quite disrespectful to others, and in such situations, quite hurtful. Now, the relevant example here for Nick Adderley, which needs no introduction because everyone else has jumped to this one straight away, is about him being an officer fighting in the Falklands War and seeing colleagues dying. Now, this lie where he claims that, it shows nothing but disrespect to the people who did fight and die in that war. There are many people that I've now spoken to personally who fought in the Falklands, and as they describe it, their colleagues' final resting place is at the bottom of the South Atlantic, where the ships went down. Some of them very young people with their whole lives ahead of them that made the ultimate sacrifice for people in this country. Now, don't ever forget that. That's how big a sacrifice it is. They gave their lives. They've got families at homes that never got to see them again. So for him to claim their glory as his own, it might just seem to him like a small bit of exaggeration that he used to notch himself up the career ladder. But in reality, he's stealing something away from men far braver than him who gave their lives, and it's disrespecting their memory. This then gets even worse by lying in two separate books designed to honour the two female police officers that were murdered in 2012, using the books as an opportunity to repeat the lie and make it all about him. Now, doing this in what is supposed to be a show of respect for two fallen comrades actually shows utter disrespect for the officers and their families. And not just that, it's a total lack of any self-awareness that the impact these lies could have when they were finally exposed, as they have been now. Now, the last type of lie that I want to focus on today, it's the deceptive denial lie. Naturally, all lies are deceptive in nature, but these are the ones where the person is asked a direct question, often about their previous lies that they've now been caught out for, and they outrightly offer a denial that what is being put to them, that accusation, is simply not true. This again has some crossover with the narcissistic personality disorder. These types of liars cannot accept blame for anything, and they will go to untold lengths to avoid taking responsibility for anything. This type of person sees lying to evade responsibility as the default action when they are cornered, with no regard that being honest might actually mitigate some of the damage they have done, because again, it's all about them. You can use logical arguments, present all the facts, and even show them categoric evidence they have been caught out, but they will still try and wiggle the way out of it and take responsibility and front it out. This is the one type of lie that Nick Adderley evidences the most, and the one we need to be most aware of with regards to his upcoming hearing. He's shown a propensity to directly lie when being caught out rather than actually tell the truth. The most obvious statement being about the medals when they come out, claiming he wears all his medals with pride and not actually admitting that he has been caught out for being a Walter Mitty. But more relevant than that, during April 2020 and the early weeks of lockdown, where Adderley threw his weight around, claiming he was going to set up roadblocks and look through people's shopping. Here is a clip of Adderley's belligerence, just in case you had forgotten about it.
So that period of grace is over. So from today, police officers in Northamptonshire are being given the clear instruction to, yes, use their common sense, to absolutely use their discretion in terms of the powers that they have, but to start to enforce the law. This means for some people fixed penalty notices. It means for some people going to court. And it also means for some people getting a criminal record. So I want to be clear. Obey the law. Do not fall foul of the legislation that's now in place. We have given the communities 3 weeks to understand what is required and why. As from today, we will start to enforce that. I do want to make the point, though, that my message to the police officers here is one of common sense and discretion, as I said before. So we will not at this stage be setting up roadblocks. We will not at this stage be starting to marshal supermarkets and checking the items in baskets and trolleys to see whether it's a legitimate, necessary item. But again, be under no illusion. If people do not heed the warnings and the pleas that I'm making today, we will start to do that. We have much more to do, and we see the death toll rising, and we see the...
Now, what you need to remember here is, this wasn't ambiguous. He actually said, make no mistake, that if people didn't start obeying the rules, this is what he would be doing. And if you lived in the county, you'll know that this didn't last long, as almost immediately after this made all the national headlines, with Priti Patel, who was the then Home Secretary, on talk radio, saying, that's not appropriate, let me be clear about that. Hardly vague.
Reason, though, do you have a bit of concern about Nick Adderley, the Chief Constable of the Northamptonshire Police, who has been all over the internet today for suggesting that there's the chance, he's not saying they're going to do it at the moment, there's the chance that roadblocks might step up. And he's even suggested that at some point the police might start to marshal supermarkets and check the items in baskets and trolleys to see whether it's a legitimate, necessary item. He says, be under no illusion, if people do not heed the warnings and the pleas I'm making today, we will start to do that. Is that not an example of police overreach?
Well,
Priti?
that's not appropriate. Let me be clear about that. And, you know, I work with the police in leadership every single day of the week and have been since this crisis, and even working into this crisis as well. That is not the guidance. That is not, you know, down to the measures that we've been adopting thus far. I think, though, what we should just say about this weekend in particular, you know, the weather is going to be good. It is Easter. We want to, you know, we really do need to all take responsibility here. And it's not about overreach. It is absolutely not about overreach.
We will never know what was said behind the scenes, but I'd wager that Adderley was hauled over the coals for this. Because if you remember, he issued another video very shortly after with a grovelling apology confirming his piss-poor choice of words and how his language is clumsy, and he clarified he would not be setting up roadblocks and not be going through people's shopping.
I just want to clarify a couple of points, really. This morning there was a number of media reports and a couple of press conferences that I did. And I think that there's been a really short grab clip of one of the statements that I actually made, which has caused a bit of consternation, certainly on social media. And this is the bit around, you know, are we going to start marshalling supermarkets and checking shopping trolleys and baskets and so on? I just want to be, and I'm going to take the unprecedented move, because I may have been clumsy in that language, so I'm going to, for absolute clarity, I'm going to make the point just in a moment, but I'm going to take the unprecedented step of sharing with you a brief that I sent to the force 3 days ago. So this is a brief that was written by me to the force 3 days ago, which was talking about the next steps. The points that I've reiterated within this brief, bearing in mind 3 days ago, are what I am telling the force that I want them to work towards. So first point is Northamptonshire Police will not set up roadblocks. Officers and staff of Northamptonshire Police will not carry out basket or trolley searches, attempting to ascertain the relevance of the items purchased. The confusion in the clip this morning, what I was trying to refer to was we may get to a stage where the purposes of somebody's journey may be questioned by an officer. Not searching trolleys and baskets, and if that confusion has existed, please let me clarify, we're not in that business. I've said that from day one. That maintains the position.
Now, if you notice, when Nick was questioned about this in an interview only months later, he completely changed his position. What he said was that the media had spun it a certain way, that they were going to be looking through shopping trolleys and setting up roadblocks. That was never the case. Well, you said it was going to be, so actually stand by it and accept that you said that. He then said the Home Secretary was ambushed on a radio show. Not true. It was the fact that he had made the headlines from saying this, and he said that Priti Patel had said if those comments were made, they're inappropriate because she hadn't spoke to him. But when she saw the live interview, she was happy with it. Well, again, not entirely what happened, because if nothing was said, why did he issue a retraction only 2 days later? But he tries to make out that this was all media spin without actually having the facts presented and standing by them.
So the fact that I made the comment that if people didn't start to follow the law and the rules and the guidance, that we would step up patrols and enforcement, I actually don't apologise for that. What I do feel bad about is the fact that people felt, because of the way the media spun it, that we were going to be searching supermarket baskets and trolleys and walking up and down aisles. That was never the case. And again, if I just put the record straight here, if I may, Nick, the Home Secretary never spoke to me. She was ambushed on a radio show, on Talk Radio, and what she said was, if those comments have been made, they are inappropriate. I've had conversations with the Home Office. They are more than content with the comments that I made when they've seen the live job. And the last thing that I ever wanted to do was try and cause a stir or upset anybody at the thought that we were going to be stopping people and checking their baskets and their trolleys. It was media spin that was done for a very quite obvious purpose, that they want the police to be the pantomime villain. At that time, they actually did. What I did say at that time was what we wouldn't be doing is checking baskets and trolleys, because it is not up to the police to determine what is an essential item and what isn't. But what I did say was, and this is a bit that they swapped around, was that in terms of roadblocks and checking whether the journeys were essential, if people didn't start to follow the rules, then we would start to do that. That's what I actually said.
So the summary here is that Nick Adderley is a person that when confronted with his own lies, he will not be honest and admit what he has done. He will double down and he will continue to lie because he is a pathological liar and just cannot help himself. Any story that he will spin will be purely for the benefit of Nick Adderley, irrespective of that story is fiction or if it's fact. And this is not a good position to be in when we are having to question someone's recollection of events and we are relying on the IOPC and the separate police forces to investigate him, because he cannot be trusted. Not one single word that comes out of his mouth can be trusted as being honest. Even to the extent when doing a Facebook Q&A and asked about what he does for his hobbies, he lies and said he built his own house. Again, another lie that has no benefit to anyone, but he just cannot help himself. So that way, anything that comes out of his investigation, of his disciplinary hearing, we need to look at and consider very, very carefully, because I'd be willing to bet my house on none of it having any shred of truth to it whatsoever. Now, if you did like this video, there is a button specifically for that. Please go down there and press it, and please subscribe for more. Most of my investigations that I'm doing into Nick Adderley take written format, but I am spicing it up with the odd video here and there, and trust me, there is still a lot more to come. Because when you're looking through all of Nick Adderley's career history and all of the lies he has told, it is like watching your favourite movie. You go through it no matter how many times. Every time you rewatch it, you find something new in there. So stay tuned and I will keep you up to date with all the lies as I uncover them and get the facts to prove they are lies.